Hi there! Hope you're doing well. This is Tim and I'm coming back at you with a fresh new video. And today we're going to talk about one of Disney's most iconic villains, Maleficent! Mwah, mwah, mwah. Sorry, I just thought I'd let her make her entrance. Sorry, she asked me to. So what we're going to talk about today with this particular scene, and then also with Maleficent in general, we're going to talk about how this scene really pulls a lot of different strings at techniques that you can do with animation and also just setting up a shot in general, but in this case, how you can do a lot of different things but still come off with a very powerful, very effective performance. So one of the things that we're going to talk about is perspective. A lot of common ways to set up a perspective shot for a scene are the rule of thirds, which is that the third intersections both horizontally and vertically on a screen, on a poster, in a portrait, etc., capture the audience's or the viewer's attention the most. Now what you'll notice, especially in a shot like this, is that Maleficent is dead on center of the screen. The third marks are actually pretty much up here where you kind of have this top of the castle wall and these banners and these kind of no-face people that popped out of like some medieval paintings, and you're not really looking at that. You're really looking at Maleficent. What you'll notice with the perspective here is that it actually has this sort of viewing perspective where you have the guiding lines and basically the vanishing point being behind her where the door is or where the sunset or the line would be, and then everything here from the castle wall is pointing to Maleficent. The people are leading to Maleficent. And what this does, and what you'll see throughout the scene, is that Maleficent takes center stage. This is her persona. That's her personality, that when she shows up, all eyes are on her. She is the center of attention and literally the center of the screen. And what you'll see is that it also pops in with her personality a bit, that she also kind of centers herself. Now, something that it might seem ironic and counteractive to what I'm saying is that with this shot, we don't have that sort of center viewing anymore. This shot is specifically set up just so we have a view on where she is in the locale in relation to the other characters that she's bouncing off of. This is really the only shot we really have of her and the king and queen and the fairies all together, and it's basically just to let the viewer have a sense of stage, a little bit of 3D dimension. And as you'll notice, she is on the left side of the perspectives, where we kind of have down here and up here where her head is, and then over here we have the fairies and the king and the queen who she's talking to. So right here, we not only get some dimension of the stage, but we also have who we're going to be focusing on for the shot. So what you'll notice, and even from back here, I know I'm not really playing much, but again, the scene is very subtle and there's a lot of things that get out of the way, is that with Maleficent, it might seem like she has a very boring pose. You can see with the queen that she has kind of like a C curve. The king maybe has like an S curve. Someone could argue that she has either a C curve going from her head to the bottom of her cloak, or that she has a straight curve, which straight curves don't work that well because it typically comes off this boring pose. But the cloak really helps kind of flesh out a dynamic, but also, as you'll notice when she's talking, is that a lot of the curve, she has a very subtle C curve, where if you want to look at her feet, it goes up and it doesn't really tilt back until it gets to her head. And what that does, personality-wise, is say that she is an intellectual. All of her power, no matter how much magic she has or influence or whatever, all of her power is up here. All of her personality is up here. And that's what Maleficent is known for, being this very dark, sinister character, where she has all the brains and cunning and sinisterness of her operations, and it's all up here. It's very subtle. The horns on her head also help kind of push the curve out in that direction, so you're not just having a character on the center of the screen in a very boring composition with the line going up and then, staying straight. She is demanding the viewer's attention and all the crowd's attention. She does have a little bit of subtlety to this. And again, you'll see as her acting, very subtle arcs. That, in a way, is her exaggerated pose. Maybe you're back there. Not too much. It's very straight. It's very slightly curved. But it's to show that she has all this power, all this intimidation, but all of this control, that she could annihilate someone in a second, and that this is someone to be feared. This is wonderful staging, but also not staging to show exaggeration or the full silhouette of a character, but staging to show the emotion of a character. Maleficent pulls that off greatly. If you want something a little bit pushed, you got something right there and there. You get a little bit more push. You get a little bit of an S or a C curve. And you get that straight line to show force, and as she C curves back. But again, she's center stage. Now what you'll notice, and there's not really a good example there, let me back it up for you, is that you'll notice that when she talks, one of the focus a lot of people look at are our character's eyes. Now if you look, her pupil, or I guess her pupil and her iris, is really freaking small. They're pinpricks. Now, in most cases, a character with that tiny pupils or irises would look psychotic. But what you'll notice is that her eyes throughout the scene, in order to allow her head and her face to have this kind of more calmness when she talks and as she looks at someone and as we look at her, the iris and the pupil stays at the bottom line of her eyelids and then also the top line. So you'll see as she's looking down, sometimes when she squints, it can actually reach both lids. Tilts her head back, looking down again, and there's one or two times it'll look up. And if you want to see a little bit more of how it can look when it's crazy, it's when she's told, you know, you weren't invited, get the frick out of here, and she's like, what? And right there you can see the craziness because it's in the center. This now in regular humans and people, it's white, but in her case, it's this lime green yellow. This area around the white space is known as the crazy space. The more of that you can see, the more bewildered or surprised or crazy a character comes off to the viewer. And with this is only 1 or 2 or 3 times in the scene that we really see that because it was the one time that she was thrown off. What do you mean I wasn't invited? But then immediately goes right back to it. And then the iris is back up there, and she has that more calm demeanor. She's back in control. She only lost control for a split second, but she's able to keep it again. Now also with her performance, again, when she turns away here, it goes from straight where she's like, okay, well, I don't think this is a good party. I think it's best to leave. We do get a little bit more of a curve as she gives the king and the queen the cold shoulder. And then, of course, we get a little bit more fleshness from them. He's still a little bit straight because he's probably freaked out of his mind. And she's a bit more concerned and saying, you know, are you not going to kill us? Oh, no, what are you talking about? We're fine. And again, this is just the loveliness of the character. You'll also notice here a little bit of timing, where for the majority of the scene, there's a lot of spacing with her poses where a lot of the spacing is on 2s, on 3s, on 4s. Let me show a little bit of an example. I'm gonna go forward frame by frame and tell you how many times I press it, and you'll see how much she doesn't move the more I talk. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. See how little she's moving and how many times I press that? In just that many amount of frames, she's only done so much movement to really show this sort of crawl with her movement. You'll see a little bit here as she gets closer to the camera, and you can actually see it a bit. All this movement's a lot smoother. So what you'll see is that if I press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, see how every single time I press it here, she's moving? This here, when she's moving more, doing something more dynamic, is when she moves, but for the most part, she has a lot of spacing with her movements, and it just shows her character. Now also here, up to this point, she has kept this very straight profile. Everything's been contained, but like a bird showing off her feathers for attractiveness, or a predator trying to show off, you know, how big and ferocious it is. This is when we really get to see the inner ferocity of Maleficent, where she's basically going to lay down the curse. And we can see how big and bold she is. The bottom of her drapes here come off as tentacles to show this monster that's within, that there's not just as much that there's a lot more than what we're seeing here. And she has this sort of predator bird-like expression. Again, it works with staging, and the perspective stays the same, where all eyes are on her. And speaking of feathers, there's another character in the scene that we gotta talk about, and it's the crow up here. Look at that. See, funny enough, the crow actually has this sort of nice pantomime of Maleficent. If you watch the crow throughout the scene, the crow is basically an underline of what Maleficent is actually truly feeling in the moment, what she has underneath, or is just sort of accenting what emotion she's currently showing. It's almost like, you can see right there, she looks up, there's a little bit of a delay from the crow, and he looks up. And then he irks back, she gets surprised, and then you see right there, he doesn't look surprised. It's because he is having her emotion on the inside of, oh, I'm gonna do bad things to these people, and then what are we talking about? So the crow is basically a way to have some vibrancy in the scene, a little bit more emotion, or just a little bit more, I guess, popped animation. But because the majority of all eyes are on Maleficent and not the crow serves as an accent while she serves as the main driving force. So again, I hope you guys liked this video. That's all I really wanted to go into. And again, there's all these different things that Maleficent breaks, or things that in a scene you mostly wouldn't see, or just different ways to kind of accent something, but it creates one of the most iconic Disney villains, if not the most iconic. So, okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Thank you guys very much for your time. If you liked it, please press that big shiny subscribe button, leave a like or a comment, I don't know, do whatever you want, and if anything, demand for better content. But again, this is Tim, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Bye!